Hey guys, it's Kevin Gunsmeyer for the series finale of Wayward Pines, episode 10, Cycle. And I was definitely looking forward to this episode. I know it was a bit harsh on last week's episode. I don't know what it was. I just wasn't as into it. I really don't know. It was still a great episode. I still really loved it. But this episode, holy shit, this episode was amazing. I loved it. I mean, everything about this was great. It was probably the best conclusion this show could have possibly had. And I love how they didn't go with the books, because I heard the books are actually not good. Like, I've heard people say the books are not good to this show, and they made the story a lot better, which I think is definitely very interesting. So, let's just get into this episode. And by the way, guys, I don't know if you guys know this, but um this was supposed to basically be a 10 episode event series. That's all this was. Some people are like, where's season 2? There's not going to be a season 2. It's over, okay? The story's over. This is how it ended, and I thought it was probably the best way to end it, and it really goes with the title of the episode perfectly. So, let's just get into it. We start with a look beyond the gates to a legion of Abbeys warming outside the walls and not too far away. And that was the perfect way to start the episode, because we see that shit's about to go down, chaos is happening, and I thought that was great. So David watches on video in town, the power's off, and things are all in chaos. Everyone's just going amok. Kate's trying to get the power back on, and Pam calls, and I forgot to say that Pam is actually allying with Ethan and his group now, which I thought was really good. I mean, you would never think that Pam, out of all people, would ally with Ethan's group, but I thought that was really great the way they did that. And basically, she tells Ethan, by the way, guys, I forgot to say, this episode it was still not as good as The Truth. The Truth is still the best episode of this show, but I have to say, in terms of, episodes that were as good as that, this was definitely way up there. And this actually felt like an episode of The Walking Dead at points, which was really awesome, and I really loved that. I mean, it was kind of like The Walking Dead. It wasn't all the way like it, but it was very much like it. So basically, she tells Ethan there are 6 Abbeys in town and says her brother shut down power to the perimeter. And obviously, they didn't know what was going on. So I like she informs him here. And Ethan tells Teresa to get Ben and me at the bunker, because he knows that Ben's in the hospital, and that's obviously dangerous. So he tells everyone else to meet at the bunker and tells them the location. Kate asks what happened, and Ethan tells her, and Kate tells Tim to get everyone to meet them at the sheriff department. And I think this is probably one of the first episodes where you really see the leadership role in Ethan and Kate, how the show's kind of revolved around them, and how they've been basically the central 2 characters, and you really do see that here, and I thought that was great, and I really love about this episode. Especially Kate, we get so much with her, and I really loved it. I mean, this was by far Kate's best episode. So Pam asks security guard to show her outside the perimeter, and she says Abby's moving in, and she says Abby's are moving in, a horde of them. She tells everyone to get the power restored as fast as possible. Ben goes to Amy's room, tells her she was in surgery. He says he didn't want to lose her. He says she's okay. His mom comes in, says they have to go, and he says Amy can't move, and he won't leave her, and Teresa says they won't leave her and asks for Dr. Carroll. And basically, they asked for Dr. Carroll, and they don't know where he is. And Sean and Jason have been locked up at the sheriff's station, and I was so happy with what happened with Jason. And I still don't like that they've introduced 2 random characters in the show. I mean, I get the point that they were trying to show someone that was against Ethan and didn't agree with what he was doing. I get that, but I just don't feel like last week's episode was the right time to introduce them, because they really ended up doing nothing to this show except just adding another annoying character. We already have Megan, like, that's enough for annoying. Basically, they ask Ethan what's going on when he comes in, and Kate and the others all arm up from the sheriff's supply, and Kate's people give Ethan some IEDs that may help, and Pam asks David what he's doing. He hugs her and says they need to awaken Group C, and she says he has to end this, turn the power back on, and I love how she doesn't agree with what he's doing. That's something I thought was great. I mean, you'd never think that Pam would have allied with Ethan's group, but I think it's awesome the way they done that. I mean, something I love is that they built Pam up as a villain when we first met her, and now we see that, no, she's not a villain. She's actually with them. She doesn't agree with what David's doing, and I like that. It shows that she's not going to let her brother tell her what to do, and she's basically going to be her own person, which I think is great that she is so independent like that, and I think that was awesome. So, basically, Pam asks David what he's doing, and she says he has to end this and turn the power back on. He says it's too late and he can't. He says the town is too sick. He says they're already dying and he failed them. He says it's just like Group A, and he says they'll begin in winter once the Abbey migrates away. And Pam says there's still time to fix it. David says they can learn from this, start again. He says the 2 of them need to have more responsibility like the early days, and she says these are living people, and says this is too far. And I like that she's telling him what's going on here, because honestly, what he's doing is pretty fucking insane. She says the great experiment's working, and he says he needs to let it go. She says to turn the power on and then send the guards to protect them, and David calls the guards, tells them to put his sister back in cryo, and he's not gonna listen to her. You can tell right away, he doesn't care what she's saying, he's gonna do this, and basically, guards then come into the command center, stop the people Pam had who were trying to keep the power back on, and Teresa then tells Dr. Carroll that they have to move Amy now, but he says no. The generator then fails and the lights go out. Ethan tells Kate and the others that they'll meet at the bunker, and Jacob tells them that David told them there would be a day of reckoning and only the first generation would be saved, and he tells them that all of them are going to die like Harold did, and they beg the adults to let them out, but they don't. And Dr. Carroll goes to turn on the backup generator. He's attacked by an Abby in the hospital basement. That was crazy when that happened. I mean, Dr. Carroll, I did not expect him to die, and that was pretty crazy. So David puts on a record while the carnage begins. Abbies make their way to Main Street. People are running, screaming all over. I mean, it's about as chaotic as you can imagine. It's insane. Teresa looks around the hospital. She spots one and hides and tells the kids they have to go now. They prop Amy between them, and Kate and the others shoot the and I like that she didn't question them, because obviously they know what's going on. They know it's not safe, and I thought that was great. So, Kay and the others shoot the Abby is gunning them down. The realtor is eaten. Arlene barely, Big Bill, he's killed. Arlene barely escapes with her life. Pam tells Christina to stop this and says things have gone wrong. Robert tells her to shut up. Pam appears to all of them, says this is working. She says there were more pregnancies than ever, and the first generation is the future. And she says their duty is to mankind, not to David, and I do agree with that basically David is not this god that they think he is, and she says he's not a god, just a man and has made a mistake. She says there's still, and that's something I like they've shown in the show, that David Pilcher's not some god. He's a man, he has flaws, he has flaws, he has problems in his life. There are things that he's not happy with, and he's tried to shut down all this chaos, but that's not what he wants. He wants them to bow down to him. He wants power. He wants leadership. And that's what he is. He's a flawed man. I love that they've shown that with Dave, and that's something I think they've done a very good job with his character. So some of the guards are rethinking, but he tells them to shut up, and he tells the group to put on their sleeper suits now, and they have to do what they're told. And the kids in the jail cower as they hear screams outside. Some of their teens come in to unlock them. They debate staying put versus trying to leave. Jason says they have to make it in the Ark because that's what David told them to do. And again, they're still listening to David. They don't understand that David is not this, is not a god like they think he is. And basically, Kate's gun jams and Tim tells her to run, and Abby follows her into her shop, and that was a crazy scene, I have to say. I mean, Abby follows her into her shop. She barely gets, by the way, the way the Abbies looked, oh, that was awesome. Like, they looked exactly like they should have looked. They didn't make them look stupid. That was really good CGI, I have to say. Honestly, for TV, it looked great. The Abbies looked awesome. I mean, they built them up to look like these awesome creatures, and they really did. So, she hears more automatic weapons fire outside, and then silence. She hears a noise above, looks up to the skylights, and Abby leaps down. She clubs it to death with a tool, as I just killed a bug with my hands. Literally, as she clubbed it with a tool, I just killed a bug. Teresa and the kids make it to the lobby and look around. They see blood and creep into an office and stop for a moment. Teresa looks into the hall, tries to shut the door, but an Abby grabs her hand. She stabs in the eye with a syringe, and then Ethan is there and shoots it. Kate sees an Abby eating Tim, but Tim is alive enough to point a finger at his bag, and she grabs it, runs off, and I like how before he died, he did try to save her. That was really great. Everyone's waiting at the bunker. People are already down there. Then Ethan, Teresa, and the kids show up. Kate's there, tells them that the Abbies are coming. They close down the bunker with all of them inside. And Ethan then asks Megan where the tunnels lead. And she denies knowledge. And oh my god, like, I was really hoping that Megan died in this scene because she's so annoying. Like, I understand that she thinks that David is this god, but she just doesn't believe anything they say. And Ethan says not to play dumb, then asks again. Megan says they need to stay calm, says David's gonna rescue them. And Ethan says he wants them dead, and he wants nothing to do with them. And it's true. And I love this scene with Ben because all season long, Ben has been listening to Megan all this time. He hasn't listened to his parents. He's rebelled against them. And finally, we see that Ben doesn't agree with her. He speaks out and says, if David didn't do this, why weren't they warned? And Ben says, David is drowning them like an ark. Kate asks Megan where the tunnels are. She says a western tunnel leads to an elevator. She says she has the code and will take them to the ark. And That was awesome. So Teresa, Ethan, and Kate go looking around. She says they have 2 pipe bombs plus some ammo. Ethan says it's early. It's an either deal with David or the Abbeys. Kate treats a wound to Teresa's arm while they wait. Teresa says she's sorry about Harold, and Kate says Pam set them up. Kate says somehow things work out and people surprise you. Ethan shows Ben how to use a pistol, gives it to him, and Ben tells his dad he's sorry for what he said at the hospital. Ethan says he loves him and that they'll get through this, and they head toward the tunnel, and Megan then hangs back, says she saw the other kids back on Main Street. Her husband says they're already dead. Megan says someone has to stay behind, let them in if they come in, and I do agree that that probably was the best thing to do. She says she promised to keep the first generation safe and tells them to get the other kids into the mountain and says she'll meet them there. And they did change some things from the book. I have to say, they didn't stick with the original ending, which I do like. And the other teens are at the school in the initiation room when Jason and Sean show up. They open the secret door that lets them into a safe room, lots of supplies. And I was hoping they'd kill off Jason, but they didn't. I mean, I was thinking they were going to, but I guess, they didn't. And Jason says that David planned for this and left them what they needed. It's a huge room full of food and other supplies so they can lock down and stay put for a long time, and I do agree that he did that. And Kate puts in the elevator code as they reach the end of the hall. Ethan says he and Kate will check it out and leaves Teresa a phone. He says they'll be fine, and Kate says they have to do this in groups and will send the elevator back once it's safe, which, yeah, they probably do have, because, I mean, they can't just all take on all these Abbeys at the same time. There's too many of them. The risk is much higher, and it's just they can't all do it at the same time. Even if they want to, they just can't. So Pam's in the cryo chamber and sees her brother outside. Robert tells her to sleep tight. Others wait in their suits. Pam has tears in her eyes. She stares at her brother, and the materials poured in that will keep her in status until David brings her back out. Ethan and Kate then come out shooting in the lab. Other guards are alerted. David sees him on security feed. The disgruntled guard tells the status handler to wake Pam up now. Ethan and Kate take down or capture a lot of guards. Ethan radios and tells Teresa to bring the first load up. Megan hears a noise at the door of the bunker, and it turns into a pounding. She waits, and there are a lot of people. Abby's then comes screaming in, though, and Ben hears them as the doors, they break through. The elevator looks at the capacity and heads up. They run out, the elevator goes back, and Amy tells Ethan that Abby's are inside. Ethan gets back into the elevator, gun goes down to help. Ben shoots at the Abbeys, and then Ethan shows up with an automatic rifle to help. They hold them off, and the doors close just as the Abbeys reach them, and the elevator then comes to an abrupt stop, and Abbeys are climbing up inside the elevator shaft, and it's just crazy, guys. They know this is not going to work out well, and it's not going to end right, and Ben hears them, tells Ethan they're in the shaft and they have to get out. They go to the top of the elevator. Ben looks and spots a ladder and a door. They hear the Abbeys getting closer. Everyone's hustled out the top of the elevator. They start up the ladder. The Abbeys are getting closer. Ethan goes right back into the elevator, then tells Ben to go on and says he'll be right behind him. He says he has to stop the others and tells Ben to get the others safety and promise he'll be close behind. They be on the elevator door, and when the others hear voices, they open it, help them up until Ethan sets up the pipe bombs on the floor of the elevator. And David watches and tells Ethan that they're gonna get up the shaft and kill everyone, and basically he starts setting up all these pipe bombs, and you don't really know what he's gonna do here. And this scene is so well done the way they handle this, because basically David's telling Ethan that they're gonna get the shaft and kill everyone. He says he told him that he would be the death of Wayward Pines, and Kate comes in with a gun and tells David to cut the power to the fence back on. He says she's there because he chose her and the others. And I do agree what he's saying, but that's still bullshit. They're humans. And the speaker's on. David says this town's not about other, but about something greater. He says about the preservation of mankind. And Ben and Teresa make it up. Ethan wires the bomb together. David says his ideas will live on long after he's gone. She says it ends here. David says she can't kill his ideas. Then he goes down from a bullet. Somebody has killed him, and it's Pam. And I was literally, like, clapping at the screen. Like, that was awesome when Pam did that. I mean, who would have thought that Pam would have had the balls to kill her own brother? I mean, just the fact that she did that. Such a badass, and honestly, everyone in this show is such a badass, and I love that. And that's something I love about the show, is that the show is all about survival and how, you know what, you have to do what you need to do. And even though she probably didn't want to kill her brother, like, I don't think she wanted to kill her brother. Like, she didn't go in thinking, okay, I want to kill my brother. She was probably thinking that she really had no choice. I mean, he was crazy. He went insane, and she knew she had no choice but to kill him to stop all this from happening. And I thought that was genius what she did. So David's dead, and basically they go to work to getting the power back on, and Ben then hugs Amy tight where he's not sure if he's ever going to see her again. And Ethan sits waiting for the Abbeys. Their arms come up through the floor of the elevator like it's paper. He triggers the bombs, the explosion sets off, and Ethan kills himself. What the fuck? I didn't see that happening at all. I mean, Ethan's the main character of this show. I saw Ethan at least living. I saw maybe Kate dying, Teresa dying, Ben dying. I didn't see Ethan dying. Like, that was insane when that happened, and I really do applaud the show for doing that because, I mean, that just shows you that it's over. Like, you can't continue the show when your main character's dead. So Ben looks down and screams. A piece of the exploding elevator comes flying up, and he's struck in the head, and basically he's unconscious. So Pam then asks how Ben is, and Kate says he's still unconscious, and Kate says people, and I love this scene between Kate and Pam. I really love this scene here. I thought this was really great, and I thought there was just, the way they handled all that was fantastic. The way that Ethan killed himself, I mean, just to save everyone was awesome. I love that, and again, I didn't see any of that happening, and again, they changed that from the book. The original book, I heard, is not very good. They changed things from the book. It's not very good, and they had to change it, and I think it was very good that they changed things from the book, because it made the story more interesting. It made things a lot, it made the risk a lot better, and it made things a lot more intense, and I really love that, a lot more unpredictable, and it was great that they changed things from the book. I'm very happy they did that, and just Ethan killing himself, he came full circle, and it was great the way they handled it, I have to say. I thought that was great. So Pam asks how Ben is, and Kate says he's still unconscious. Kate says people are tired and need to sleep, and Pam tells them where to find beds and says she'll get them food and water, and basically they're going to put them all to sleep again, because basically now that they've experienced this Abbey attack, they basically are just in the shock, and they realize that they have to get them to sleep for like another 300 years or something. And Kate tells Pam that she wants to help and says she operates better with more information. Pam takes her downstairs to the status chamber. She says the rest of the people who haven't woken yet. Kate is stunned, and Kate says she and Pam have never said one thing to each other, and Pam says it can start now. She says they will survive and will make it better. No more lies, surveillance, or reckoning. She says they can work together and they can succeed. She says they have to because it's all they have left and the last of humanity. And you think that things are going to go well here. You think that they're going to be able to fix this, and David's body is taken away. It seems like it's going to work out. It seems like they're going to be able to change things, but then we see that Ben finally wakes up to see Amy at his bedside. However, Amy's a lot more grown up now, and I love the way they handle this. A lot of people hated this final scene, but I personally loved it because of what the show is trying to say. Because he asks where everyone is, he sees her in a lab coat, and she says she's a nurse now and graduated 2 months ago, and she calls him Mr. Burke, and he asks how long he was unconscious, and she says the doctor will answer his questions, but he asks again. She says it's been 3 years, 4 months, then tells him to be quiet because they're listening, and I'm like, what? She says the adults and Ben were all put in suspension, and says they blame Ethan for the Savior's death, the Savior, of course, being David Pilcher. Which I can understand this. I mean, there are still people probably that think that David is this god, and you'll never be able to get rid of people like that. I mean, he was the owner for so long that pretty much a whole chunk of people, even though Ethan told them the truth, they still think that David is this god. And he sits up and asks for his clothes, and she says to calm down or he'll be put back into suspension. She hands him a packet of clothes. He walks away from her, and out on the street he looks around Wayward Pines, and they basically do exactly the same thing as the original show. It's pretty much a shot-for-shot thing, but the town is now all young people. All the adults are gone. We see Jason's the police chief now. There's a statue dedicated to David Pilcher by the town carousel. Ben rubs his head. He's looking around. He has no idea what's going on. Several of the young couples have kids. He sees the body of someone lynched on a nearby pole, and basically that's how it ends, and that's it for the show. And a lot of people hated this ending, but I personally love this ending because you know why? It's really showing that no matter what happens, you will never be able to stop they'll never be able to stop the madness of this town, the impact that this town had on everyone, what it did to everyone. I mean, it's so fascinating the way they ended. I really did love that because, again, there will always be people that thinks David Pilcher is this god. There will always be people who thinks that Ethan Burke killed David Pilcher. There will always be people like that, and there's nothing they can do to stop that. And now they're basically stuck, and things are worse now. It's all young people. All the adults. Now, here's the question. People are probably asking, well, what happened to Kate and Pam? They froze them. They put them to sleep. All the adults are sleeping right now because this is the first generation. That was their mission. Their mission basically, we never really knew what the first generation's mission was, what exactly they were supposed to do. And I think now we have a sense of what the first generation was supposed to do. They basically went after anyone who they basically were meant to replace David Pilcher as the savior after David died. That's really what they were meant to do, and I think that definitely is very interesting. The way the show handled that. I mean, it's really a fantastic ending, in my opinion. Put things full circle. I mean, Ben now basically having to experience what his father did. Ben's probably going to become the sheriff. I mean, who knows what's going to happen here? Jason's probably going to be as menacing as Arnold was. I mean, a lot's going to change now, and I really love that. And the thing is, though, we don't need a second season because the episode was called Cycle, and that's the perfect title. I mean, the creator of the show said that the whole point of the ending was supposed to show that you just can't get away from certain things. There are things that maybe you want to get away from, but the town will never stop changing. The town will never stop being this crazy place. There's nothing they can do to change it, and even though they want to, there's really nothing they can do about it. And I think that definitely is very interesting. But what an amazing show. I want to talk about this show in general. I want to talk about why I really love this show. Wayward Pines was a great show. I loved it. I thought it was a fantastic show. I mean, just what they were able to do in 10 episodes is fantastic. The way they answered all the questions were great. And the way they ended, I thought was pretty fantastic as well. It never really went off the rails for me. Yes, last week's episode was a little bit disappointing, but other than that, I really loved this finale. I thought it was perfect, guys. Honestly, I honestly thought it was perfect. I didn't have a problem with the ending at all. A lot of people have a problem with the ending, but I thought this was a perfect finale. I really love the way they handled it, I have to say. It was great, really. It was amazing, and I definitely really loved it. I mean, it was just a perfect way to end this finale, with Ben now basically having to do what his father did, the kids basically taking the place of all the adults. I mean, it's just really interesting the way they did that. And of course, you know, Kate and Pam thought they could change everything because of how mad the town is. Now they'll never be able to change. I'm pretty sure that Wayward Pines is always going to be the way that it was meant to be by David Pilcher, and that's because of all the people that worshipped him and supported him. There were always going to be people that think of him as this god, and the way the show does that, I think, is definitely very interesting, because David Pilcher tried to play God, and it didn't work, and it actually, but no, it actually did work. Even though he died and Ethan killed himself, it actually made things worse. I mean, him telling the truth to everyone, probably that's why Ethan is hated by everyone. That's why they blame Ethan. Ben is probably going to be just as hated now, and that definitely is very interesting to see what happens there. Now, Teresa, all of them, again, they're sleeping. They're gone. All the adults are sleeping now. They're eventually going to be woken up, but for right now, this is how the world is, and there's nothing they can do about it. I think that definitely is very interesting, the way they handled it, I have to say, and it really makes the series come full circle, and I really love the ending. I thought it was perfect, honestly, guys. I thought that was probably the best way they could have ended the show, and I absolutely love this finale. It was perfect, and while the show might not have been perfect, I will admit it was not perfect. I still loved it overall. It was a fantastic event series. It's one of the few series that actually didn't go off the rails. Many of these series, like, they start off very good, then they're not good. But this was great the whole time. It never got bad for me. I always loved it. I was always into it, and I pretty much loved everything that happened in this show, I have to say. But that's basically my review. Hope you guys enjoyed it. Let me know what you guys thought of this finale. I absolutely love this finale. I thought it was the perfect way to end it. I will see you guys in my next video, which will be for another classic movie review, and I will see you guys for that. Okay, bye.